Today we'll be doing 3.3 notes. This is similar polygons. We'll do 3 different parts today to our notes. You have a foldable, and inside you have something like this. I'm going to start by giving some definitions, and then I'll show you what I want and how and why we call figures similar. Similar polygons. 2 polygons are similar polygons if corresponding angles are congruent. Remember that congruent means equal. And the lengths of the corresponding sides are proportional. All right, so we call polygons or shapes similar if, one, their angles are congruent, so the corresponding angles have to be congruent, and the corresponding sides need to be proportional. Now you're going to see that in the next figures, in the next polygons, we're going to call them similar because these two things are true. Hoy vamos a hacer 3.3 similar polygons. Lo que queremos hacer aquí es ver polígonos que se llaman similar, ¿ok? Hay 2 cosas que buscamos para decir que figuras o polígonos son similar. La primera cosa que buscamos es que los ángulos correspondientes sean congruentes. En otras palabras, que los ángulos correspondientes entre las figuras sean igual, tengan la misma medida, sean congruentes. La otra cosa que buscamos es que los lados correspondientes sean proporcional, ¿ok? Son 2 cosas que buscamos. Vamos a ver las figuras acá abajito y ver por qué son similares. All right, let's look at these 2 figures. We have the smaller one and then we have the larger one. These 2 figures are called similar polygons. They're similar quadrilaterals, okay? Now, I want to point out that there is a notation that says that 2 figures are similar, and it's this squiggly right there. So it says ABCD is similar to EFGH. So that symbol means similar. Ok, so aquí dice que cuadrilátero ABCD, so el más pequeño, es similar. So esa notación que tiene como las curvitas, eso quiere decir que es similar. Ok, so ABCD es similar con la figura EFGH. Son similares. All right, so I know they're similar if the angles are congruent, okay? So the corresponding angles must be congruent. So let's look. First thing I'm going to point out here, and I'll do it in red. We have your angle A, okay? And angle A is going to be corresponding with angle E in the other quadrilateral. They're in the same position. They are corresponding angles, and they are going to be similar because they have equal measures. And the labeling the arc tells me that they're equal. They have the same amount of arcs. It means they are congruent, right? Equal in measure, okay? So angle A is congruent, so that symbol means congruent. So angle A is congruent with angle E. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is label which angles are congruent with what. B, oh, and I needed my highlighter, not my pen. So angle B is corresponding to angle F. They're in the same position. They also have 2 arcs. So I'm going to say angle B is congruent with angle F. Ok, yo aquí estoy marcando cuáles ángulos son correspondientes con cuáles. Tenemos dos diferentes figuras. En la figura más pequeña, ángulo A va a ser correspondiente con ángulo E. Ok, so hay algo que me dice que son ángulos con la misma medida. Lo que me dice es la cantidad de arcos, ¿ok? So yo veo un arco aquí en ángulo A y en ángulo E yo veo un arco también. Tienen la misma cantidad de arcos, eso me dice que son iguales, que tienen la misma medida y están en la misma posición. So ángulo A y ángulo E son ángulos correspondientes y tienen la misma medida. Por lo mismo puedo deducir que ángulo B y ángulo F están en la misma posición, tienen dos arcos cada uno, quieren decir que ángulo B y ángulo F tienen la misma medida. Y también, porque están en la misma posición, son ángulos correspondientes. Ángulo C y ángulo G tienen tres arquitos cada ángulo. Quieren decir que C y F tienen la misma medida, ¿ok? Lo que sea C de medida, ángulo G tiene esa medida también. So, ángulo C y ángulo F tienen la misma medida, son ángulos correspondientes. Y en verde voy a poner eso, ¿ok? So, angle C and angle G are angles that are Oh, no. I need my pen. Okay. Angle C and angle G are corresponding angles. 3 arcs for each part. Those are the ones that are corresponding. All right, and then the last one. We'll do it in yellow. Angle D is corresponding with angle H. Again, they have the same position within their quadrilateral, and that box tells me that they are 90 degrees. Okay, so I want you to remember that the box says 90 degrees. So right next to it, I'll write 90 degrees. So you remember that little box tells you 90 degrees. So equal angles, same position. Angle D is congruent with angle H. Ok, so esa cajita para ángulo D y ángulo H quiere decir 90 grados. Tienen la misma medida, son ángulos congruentes y están en la misma posición. So yo puedo decir que ángulo D es correspondiente con ángulo H. Están en la misma posición. Ok, so para decir que son similar, tienen que ver dos cosas. La primera es que los ángulos correspondientes sean congruentes y esto es verdad. So, esta primera parte es verdad. Vamos a ver la siguiente parte. Esta habla de los lados, the sides. Y esta parte de arriba eran los ángulos. Okay, so the first part that we did were angles. This last part that we're going to do are the sides. So we need to see which sides are corresponding with what. Let's use our highlighter. No, let's use this pen right here in red. Okay, so A, B, okay, is corresponding with E to F. So you can see them in red right there. Okay, so let me write that down. So AB is corresponding with EF. Oh, let me write that a little nicer. It's too thick. EF. Okay. Now, one thing that I am going to mention, the order matters. Okay, if you start from A and you go up to B, when you write it down, you have to start down and going up to F. So E to F, not F to E. That would be the wrong thing to write down. Okay, the order matters of how it's written. A to B, E to F. You have to follow the same order. Okay, so for B to C, let's do it in blue. B to C, I went from the left to the right. So I'm going to do the same thing. So F to G. Okay, and then C to D, I'll do that in green. I went up, down. So I'm going to go up, down on the other figure. So it's from G to H. Okay, again, order matters. So in the last part, I went from A to D. So watch. So I went from left to right. For my figure here, I have to follow the same thing. It went from E to H. Okay, so again, for the sides, what matters is the order, okay? You have to follow the same order. If not, you're going to write it incorrectly. Point off. The order matters. All right, we have a couple questions here that we're going to answer as best as we can. So let's start with the first part over here at the top. It says, list the pairs of congruent angles and the proportions that relate to the corresponding sides of the similar figures below. Okay, I'm going to do number 1. It says HJKL is similar to WXYZ. Okay, so they want the congruent angles listed and they want the corresponding sides as well. Okay, so let's start with the angles. With the angles, I'm going to start with H. So H is in the same position as W. Okay, so I'm going to say that angle H is congruent to angle W. All right, let's do the next one. Well, J is similar to X, or it's corresponding. They're congruent. Okay, so I'm going to say here that, let me grab my pen. Angle J is congruent to angle X, okay? And then J and X are going to have 2 arcs because those are corresponding. They're similar, and they have congruent measures. What I forgot to do for H and W is I'm going to do 1 arc, okay? Just to distinguish. H and W go together. They have the same measure. I don't know what that measure is, but they should have the same measure. J and X also have the same measure. Okay, let's do the next part. In green, K and Y are in the same position. These are corresponding angles, and they will be also congruent. Let me draw this out. So I'm going to do 3 arcs for that one. That's what's next. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Same amount of arcs means they are congruent. Okay, so let's write it down. I'm going to do angle K is congruent to angle Y. All right, last one. I'm going to do that one in yellow. L is congruent to Z. Angle L and angle Z are corresponding. So I'm going to say angle L is corresponding or congruent to angle Z. And this one's going to have 4 arcs. Different angle. And to signify that difference, I'll do 4 arcs. Okay, so notice how I go up in arcs every other angle, okay? So every time I go to a different angle, I'm adding 1 arc to my drawing so I can see the difference. Okay, so my angles are done. I have 4 angles, so 4 sets of corresponding angles. All right, let's do the sides now. Let me grab my colors. So I am going to just start off however I want. I'll start off with drawing my 4 different sets that I'm going to write. Oh, maybe I need more space. Hold on. Let me write it a little bit nicer. So this is for my first side. And see how I have 4 I'm going to keep going. Make sure I have enough space here. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go from H to J for the first part. So notice I went down, up. So I'm going to do the same thing for my other shape. It's from W to X. Okay. So H to J. And for this corresponding side, my bigger shape is going to go from W to X. Okay, so the order matters. I went down, up. Okay, so that really matters in this part. Okay, para escribir los lados correspondientes, yo empecé con H a J. Y aquí para los lados correspondientes, lo importante es que el orden también sea importante, ¿ok? ¿Qué quiere decir eso? El orden es lo más importante. Si tú te fuiste de abajo hacia arriba, tienes que hacer lo mismo en la otra figura. En la figura pequeña que tengo aquí, yo me fui de H a J. Me fui de abajo hacia arriba. Y voy a hacer lo mismo para mi otra figura. De W me voy a subir a X. Yo en ese orden lo voy a escribir. Fue H primero y luego J. Y abajito, en mi parte donde estoy escribiendo mis lados correspondientes, es W hacia X. Lo sigo en ese orden. El orden es importante. Ok, y voy a hacer lo mismo para los otros lados. Hay cuatro lados en total. Me faltan hacer 3 lados. Ok, esto lo voy a hacer en azul. De J a K. Okay, let's do the other side. So from J to K. And so in the other figure, I'm going to go from X to J. Sorry, X to Y. I don't know why I said J. And then, so when I write this down, it's going to be from J to K, and on the bottom, X to Y. Okay, so what's happening? The top part of your fraction, of your labeling is going to be your smaller figure. At the bottom is going to be the bigger figure. That's what I'm doing here. Okay, so that's that side. Let's go to the next corresponding side. I'm going to go, and this is how I want to go, from K to L. I'm writing it from K to L. So that means that I'm going to go from Y to Z. I'm doing the same order. So Y to Z. Okay, and let's do the last one. That's how I'm going to choose to do it. I'm going to go from L to H. So from right to left. So from L to H. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go from Z to W. So from L to H. And so I'm going from Z to W. Order matters. Okay, I'm going to skip number 2. Okay. If you want to do it and practice that one later, that's fine. But I'll skip number 2. We're going to keep practicing the same skill for 3 and 4 and 5. So that's why I'm skipping one. Let's look at number 3 and number 4. What are the congruent angles? Well, I'm only looking for congruent angles right now. Not the sides, just the angles. So let's pair them up. Let's see which ones are corresponding. Okay, so I can see here that angle Q will be corresponding to F. Okay, now I can see that the shape is flipped here. Okay, so you have to take that into consideration. Okay, and try to imagine one of them flip the other way to figure this one out. Okay, and what helps me is the arcs. Okay, the arcs help me figure out which ones go with what. So Q and F go together. I'm going to say that P and G go together. If I were to flip one of the shapes upside down, P and G would be in the same position. Okay, and then M and E should be corresponding. So if I flip the second figure upside down, E would be at the top. And the last one, N and D are corresponding. Okay, so I wanted to find them first so I can write them down. Okay, so angle M is congruent to angle E. So I'm going to start with those, and these are the green ones that you see there. Angle Q, ooh, I wanted the other, okay, there we go. Angle Q is congruent with angle F. And angle Q and F are in red, so I'm going to highlight them in red. Okay, and I said that angle P is congruent to angle G, right? That's what we said. I'm just writing down what we just figured out, which is in blue. And then last one, the yellow ones. Angle N is congruent to angle D. Right there. Okay, so only want the congruent angles right now. I'm not doing the sides. Okay, este ejemplo 3, está un poquito diferente porque las figuras están como reverseadas. So, yo para saber cuáles son los ángulos correspondientes, tengo que imaginarme una de las figuras volteadas para que estén en la misma posición, ¿ok? Entonces, por eso, ángulo K es congruente con ángulo F. Si yo me imagino volteando esta figura que tengo aquí, si yo la reversio, si la cambio, si la volteo, entonces F quedaría hacia abajo y está en la misma posición que K, ¿ok? So, K y F van juntos, ¿ok? So, imagínense que la segunda figura la volteas hacia abajo y podemos ver cuáles son los ángulos que son correspondientes de verdad. Y yo los escribí aquí abajito. Voy a hacer lo mismo para mi siguiente parte. Okay, so let's do my angles here. Let's start with A. Angle A is corresponding with M. So I don't have to do anything crazy. I don't have to imagine them being reversed. They're in the same position. So A and M are my corresponding angles. So I'm going to write angle A is corresponding or congruent to angle M. Okay, next one's B. B and N are in the same position. Okay, so I'm gonna write angle B is congruent to angle N. I'm gonna write angle C, and I forgot to write down that particular angle name in my foldable, so that should be C. So angle C is going to be congruent to angle P. Okay, make sure you fill in C for me in your foldable. I just forgot about it. So angle C is congruent to angle P. I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of the angles. Okay, so angle D is going to be congruent with angle Q. Angle E is congruent to angle R. And angle F is congruent to angle S. So angle F and S congruent. Okay, so example 3 and example 4 are done. We have one last example, example 5. Okay, and this is about corresponding sides. Okay, la última ejemplo es de los ángulos. No, sorry, no los ángulos, no. Son de los lados correspondientes. Corresponding sides. No vamos a hacer ángulos esta vez. Solamente queremos poner los lados correspondientes. ¿ok? So vamos a ignorar los ángulos. Yo veo 4 lados en mi figura, so voy a poner 4 fracciones aquí, porque así escribimos los lados, con las fracciones. Ok, so yo claramente puedo ver cuáles ángulos son correspondientes con cuáles por los arquitos, ok, eso me dice mucho, pero no me importan los ángulos, a mí me importa los lados, ok. So yo voy a empezar con mi lado a la izquierda, so de D hacia A es mi primer lado que voy a hablar y se va a ir de K a M. So, desde abajo hacia arriba es mi orden. So, yo lo voy a escribir D hacia A. Y luego abajo voy a poner Q a M. De Q a M. Ok. El siguiente lado va a ser desde A hacia B. Entonces, en mi otra figura es de M a N. Ok, y yo lo voy a escribir esto en azulito. So, de A a B, so es de M a N. En ese orden lo voy a escribir. Ok, mi siguiente lado va a estar en verde. Voy a ir de B hacia C y en mi otra figura voy a ir de N a P. So, B, C es lo que voy a escribir arriba y abajo en mi fracción voy a poner N y luego P. Mi último lado, yo escogí de ir desde D hacia C, so de izquierda a derecha, y es lo mismo que hice de Q a P. De C, Q a P. Ese es mi último ejemplo. Ustedes tienen tarea en Google Classroom, so enciendan sus computadoras y hagan la tarea. Buena suerte. This was our last example. We went from doing angles to, for example 5, only doing sides, okay? So what I'm doing for this part is doing sides only. That's my focus. So I have 4 sides, so I did 4 different fractions, okay? That's how I started. 4 sides, 4 fractions, and I started labeling, right? Which corresponding sides are which. I labeled the red ones that go together, the blues, the greens, the yellows together, okay? So for the red, I went from D to A, so that means I have to go to Q to M. So that's the red part, the corresponding sides. The blue part, I went from A to B, so from left to right. So I have to do the same order for my other figure, from M to N. The green part was the same from B to C, so N to P. And my last side could have gone from C to D, but I decided to go from D to C, okay? Which means I have to go from Q to P in my other figure. And those are the corresponding sides. You do have homework, so you can keep practicing on your own and see what you need help with. You have homework in the computer today. Good luck and get started.